So today we're going to do a walkthrough of the process of doing active recon, vulnerability analysis, and exploitation. We're going to be using Kali Linux and Metasploit. Kali is a Linux distribution designed for digital forensics and penetration testing. Metasploit is a modular tool for developing and executing exploit code. It maintains a large database of exploits against various vulnerable systems and software, and it's well known for its anti-forensics and evasion tools. So we're going to be attacking an intentionally vulnerable system called Metasploitable. Metasploitable is an operating system that's meant to help fledgling hackers learn how to attack a system. Now, for this example, I'm going to be running both Kali Linux and Metasploitable in a virtual environment on my system. The tool I'm using is VirtualBox. Each virtual machine is configured to be in bridged mode, which means that they are allowed to get its own unique IP address on the internal lab network. So I'm going to start off by doing an nmap scan of the top 20 ports as defined by nmap. This list shows how frequently these ports are open on systems. The top 20 ports are the most frequently seen out in the wild. The list is maintained at this location, so let's do head 50 user share nmap services. Now you see here it goes sequentially. It starts off 1, 2, 3. It does both UDP and CDP ports, but these numbers right here is the frequency that these ports are seen open. So the highest 20 numbers in frequency are going to be the top 20 ports. If you need to see what flags the nmap command needs, just type in nmap-h, and it gives a detailed list of each of the flags and what they do. Now I know some of you may be new to Linux and command line, so most commands, if you type in the -h at the end, it'll provide you a help menu similar to this one. If you need a more in-depth look at the functionality of the tool, you can type in man and the command. So man nmap. And you will see a lot more information about what's going on. Now another tip is that whenever you see a flag with a single dash, it's for a letter or two, and 2 dashes is typically a whole word. So for example, nmap-a-top-ports 20 192.168.5.55. So single dash for the letters or combination of 2 letters, 2 dashes for the whole word. Now -pn turns off ICMP discovery. Since it's a single host and I know it's alive, there's no need for it. The -a is for OS fingerprinting, service version, trace route, and some automatic execution of scripts to find more detailed information. This -a flag makes the scan take a bit longer for extra steps. And the top ports 20 is, as I previously mentioned, the top 20 ports. So let's see what Metasploitable returns back with is showing open right now. Okay. So we see a bunch of open ports just from the top 20 scans. We see FTP, SSH, Telnet, SMTP. Now these SMTP commands come in handy or show up after with a -a flag. So it tells me what commands I can run via command line. It tells me what version or what type of SMTP server is running, is postfix. We can see down here, we get a version we see DNS is open and we see the version of DNS that's running. So that's what the -a flag gives you. It's a bit more detail. So I already know that VSFTP 2.34 is an old version. So let's take a look at that and see if this has any exploits associated with it. VSFTP is short for Very Secure File Transfer Protocol daemon. Now, this particular instance of VSFTP had a malicious backdoor inserted into it. So whenever a specific username and password was submitted to the server, the system would open up port 6200 for an attacker to submit commands to. The backdoor was submitted on version 2.34 between June 30th and July 1st in 2011. So let's fire up Metasploit and see if it's got a exploit built into it for VSFTP. Now, Metasploit is pre-installed on most distributions of Kali Linux. It leverages an underlying Postgres database. It's an exploit framework that contains development tools geared towards standardizing exploit usage syntax. So Metasploit allows you to choose various payload types to achieve your goals. It's an open source platform for developing, testing, and exploits code written in Ruby. It's become an essential tool for many penetration testers because it's constantly being improved with active development from the community. So let's search Metasploit to see if there are any modules that already exist for VSFTP. So search VSFTP. And it immediately comes back with a VSFTP 234 backdoor. Okay, so let's see what's going on here and take a look at the code associated with it. To do that, I'm going to look at the exploit DB, or exploit database, which is an archive of exploits. So we're going to do a search for VSFTP. I'm not a robot. Let's search. All right, so here's the backdoor command. Let's take a look at this. Now, it's written in Ruby. Even if you're unfamiliar with Ruby and don't know code too much, there are a lot of comments here, and let's see if we can just kind of see what's going on in here. All right, so here you can see some of the high-level stuff associated with this command. You can see the author, the platform is Unix. Let's see here, it gives you a high-level description of the exploit there. So let's scroll down here a little bit. So here's where the actual code starts. So first thing it tries to do is see if port 6200 is already open on the system. Then we see here we have some error checking. So it tries to generate a random user, but here is the key right here. This colon smiley face is what's needed to open up that back door. It checks to see if the response, it submits that username with a colon smiley face. It checks to see if a response contains 530, and if it gets that, it kicks out the message saying that it's configured for anonymous only and backdoor can't be reached. If you get a code 331, then the server did not respond as expected and it just disconnects. If it doesn't get either one of those, then it tries to submit a random password. And then it gives you a comment that says it doesn't even bother to look to see if the password works or not. It's just going to check and see if you can connect to 6200. And if it can, then it looks like you're all good. And then once it tries to connect, it goes ahead and submits the ID command. It tries to send in this ID command to identify what user you're connected as. All right, so let's go ahead and fire up Kali. We're going to see if we can verify all of everything I just said via Wireshark as well. So first thing, I'm going to put in a filter because I only want to capture traffic that's associated with the Metasploitable machine. First, select the interface, IP host 192.168.5.55. Okay. Now, I'm going to, in Metasploit, I'm going to use exploit Unix FTP vsftpd 234 backdoor. And if you do info, it gives you a bit more information. Again, this was what was in that Ruby code we just looked at, and it gives you the options on how to use it. So essentially, we just have to set the remote host that we're connecting to and the host port, which we saw in the scan was port 21. So to set the host, we do set our host 192.168.5.55. And to initiate the exploit, we just do run. All right, we see traffic going through Wireshark. We see that we found shell. The shell session is opened. We see the ID command submitted, and it tells me that I'm connected as root. So let's stop this packet capture and take a look. So let's scroll to the top here. So we send a send. Okay, so first we sent the send packet to port 6200 to check to see if that port was already open. The server sent back a reset packet saying that that port isn't open. So we established a connection on 21 to port 21. So my Kali Linux box to the server, 32990 is a source port, 21 is a destination port. We complete the three-way handshake. So the send ACK. We get the response 220 telling me that the FTP server is ready. So it's ready for a new user, ready for the new user. It gives me the banner, the version number. So then here you can see my system send in the random user, just pick the letters EF and then that smiley face. Got the acknowledge, and then the system responded back with send the password. So then my system randomly generates a password, and then immediately after it sends a password, it goes and checks to see if 6200 is open again. So here you see 41727 is my source port, and it's going to port 6200, and this time it responds saying that it's open. So then push ACK, I go down and see the data. You see down here is where I submit the ID command to the system. And then you see that the system responds back root. So then I essentially have shell on this system. So if I go back to Metasploit, I can just go into the command itself and just send commands directly to it. So if I do ifconfig, you'll see that I have the IP address of the server, the vulnerable server right there. I can do netstat tan, and you'll see all the ports that are open, the ports that I saw that were listening in my scan, and some additional ones that didn't come up in the scan. And here you'll see that I'm listening on 6200 right there. You'll also see that I have the connection back to my system on 6200. So that's really high level, walking through how we can attack Metasploit. This was a super simple example. In Metasploitable, there are web modules that we can attack. There are various servers that we can attack. So this is high level, doing a recon, doing some analysis of an exploit, and then executing that exploit.